From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang and here are the news. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday led the relaunch of the newly renovated facilities at the Phil Sports Complex in Pasig City, calling the upgraded training environment a key investment in developing athletes and strengthening national character through sports. The refurbished complex featuring modernized athlete dormitories, a relocated National Sports Museum, a redesigned dining hall, and improved sports offices marks the most extensive upgrade to the area since renovations for the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. The initiative undertaken by the Philippine Sports Commission or PSC with the support from the Office of the President and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos comes as the Philippines prepares to host several major international sports events. In his remarks, the President underscored the unifying force of sports and its ability to instill discipline, resilience, and teamwork among Filipino youth. President Marcos reiterated the administration's push to revive physical education and competitive activities in schools. He also said national athletes should not solely rely on an informal support group of parents, coaches, and trainers, noting that a government has to play its part, especially in athletes' need for proper nutrition, full medical support, and top-tier preparation to compete internationally.
I have always said it, and I think you may have heard me say it so many times, how important I consider sports for very, very many things. Not only the glory it brings to our country, the pride it brings to every Filipino. Look what Manny Pacquiao did for us. Look what our gold medalists, Hidlin and Kaloy, look what they did for us. For even just a few days, we were in the top of the world. And that's so important. And it also brings the country together. Because walang Pilipino na hindi kakampi sa Olympian natin o sa athlete natin na lumalaban. So kahit hindi kayo magkasundo, yun na nga, hindi ba balitang-balita si Manny Pacquiao pag lumalaban doon sa Mindanao, ceasefire. Dahil manunood muna sila ng laban ni Manny Pacquiao. And the same thing with you, Hideling, ganun din. Lahat natigil habang pinapanood ka namin. The same thing with Kaloy. The same thing with all the athletes. And even those who are not gold medalists, we're still there watching you, backing you up, screaming at the TV, and saying, sige, go, 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 go. And it brings the country together. And beyond that, besides that also, there is no other activity that builds character better than sports. And that is why one of the things I asked Pato to do for us, when he took on his position, was to bring back, let's find a way to bring sports back to school. Our athletes really should be supported. I know, I have an idea about the sacrifices that our athletes make. And the government has to be part of your support group.
PSC Chairman Patrick Gregorio thanked partner agencies, sports associations, and the private sector for supporting the comprehensive reconstruction, which included waterproofing works, new CCTV systems, improved lighting, upgraded air conditioning, and enhanced fire detection and alarm systems. The strength and conditioning gym also received new cardio, weight training, and functional training equipment. The newly relocated National Sports Museum, now housed within the complex, continues to showcase preserved memorabilia of past and present Filipino sports icons. The Phil Sports Complex, home to a large portion of the national training pool, remains a key venue for local competitions and sports-related events. President Marcos said the improved facilities would help our athletes do better in international competitions and continue to bring honor to the country.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has called on international bank HSBC to help more foreign investors see the huge economic opportunities the Philippines has to offer. He acknowledged the foreign bank's support for government initiatives, including its participation in recent bond issuances such as the SEC-registered 3.3 billion US dollars equivalent dual currency global bond that aims to ensure the continuation of vital government programs. He also cited HSBC's strong collaboration with relevant economic agencies and its contribution to increasing the country's exposure to foreign investors. From its first branch in Binondo in 1875, President Marcos said HSBC's growing presence in the Philippines serves as a vote of confidence in the future of the Philippines. On the part of the government, he said the administration continues to strengthen its financial systems to protect depositors. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, he added, is refining capital, liquidity, and governance standards to ensure that banks are resilient. The country, he said, also adopts reforms such as the Basel III new standardized approach, the national risk assessment, and clearer guidelines for the disqualification of erring officers. HSBC, the leading international bank in the country, serves 41 million clients across 57 markets with over 3 trillion US dollars in assets.
The same principle guides your work in government. Your participation in recent bond issuances, including the SEC-registered 3.3 billion US dollars equivalent dual currency global bond offering, has ensured that vital government programs can proceed amidst challenging times. These programs, whether on infrastructure, education, or social protection, directly benefit our people, especially those who rely on stable public services. Efforts to help benchmark borrowing costs likewise create a more predictable environment for investors and corporations. In turn, this broadens avenues for safe government-backed investments for Filipino savers, strengthening their long-term financial stability. Your support in Philippine economic briefings also help channel the investments to where they matter most, to infrastructure that eases daily life, industries that create dignified work, enterprises that enable communities to thrive. Your participation at the 2023 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP28, also exhibits the same spirit of partnership. In a country often at the mercy of storms, floods, and rising seas, engaging in climate discussions is necessary to protect lives and to secure our future. Through your collaboration with agencies like the Board of Investment and the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, more global investors are introduced to the potential capabilities of the Filipino workforce, bringing in more employment opportunities, better training programs, and greater possibilities for their families.
In his remarks, HSBC Interim Group Chairman Brandon Nelson said the firm has strong confidence in the Philippines and is ready to work with the country to sustain its growth momentum. He said HSBC is determined to continue growing in the Philippines, as he noted its strategic position in Southeast Asia. One of the regions, he noted, is set to benefit most from the configured globalized world. Exports within the region, he said, have risen 31% in the last 5 years and are expected to grow by 41 billion US dollars per year through 2030, reaching almost 7 trillion US dollars. And this growth, he added, is mainly driven by the trade corridors within the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. administers the oath of office to Acting Executive Secretary Ralph Recto in a ceremony at the study room in Malacañang Palace. Acting Executive Secretary Recto brings decades of experience in legislation, Public Administration, and Economic Management. Before his appointment, he served as a Department of Finance or DOF Secretary and a member of the Monetary Board, representing the government sector. From January 2024, he led the DOF in steering fiscal strategy and economic reforms during a period of sustained national recovery and growth. He also served as Socio-Economic Planning Secretary and Director General of the National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA in 2008 during a critical period of fiscal policy and development planning.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. officiated the oath-taking of Acting Department of Finance or DOF Secretary Frederick Go in a simple ceremony at the study room in Malacañang. Secretary Go served as a special assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs from January 2024 before this new appointment. The Acting Finance Secretary spent most of his professional career in the private sector as President and Chief Executive Officer or CEO of Robinson's Land Corporation, Chairman of RL Commercial REIT Incorporated, and Chairman/Vice Chairman of the Luzon International Premier Airport Development or LIPAD Corporation. Malacañang has credited him for advancing investment pipelines, aligning major economic initiatives across agencies, and bolstering investor confidence amid global economic headwinds.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, together with Pioneer Insurance, has released the insurance benefits to the family of an overseas Filipino worker, or OFW, who died in Cyprus, as the family said they are waiting for the results of the probe on the death. In a news release, the DMW said Assistant Secretary Venecio Legaspi and Region 3 Central Luzon Director Marion Sevilla personally attended the turnover to the OFW's children through their mother, as well as to the OFW's father on Tuesday in Pampanga. The family expressed gratitude for the swift assistance but said they are still hoping for clarity on the circumstances of the OFW's death. The OFW, identified as Jerome Zarate de Castro, was found critically injured outside his apartment building in Limassol on September 28. De Castro had worked for 3 years at the City of Dreams, Cyprus. Reports said that the victim was rushed to the Limassol General Hospital but died several hours later. Local media in Cyprus said the incident was initially reported as a fall from a balcony, which was approximately 6 meters high. However, they quoted local police as saying forensic pathologists had reported De Castro died of hemorrhagic shock due to internal bleeding from a ruptured spleen, along with penetrating abdominal wounds, which authorities said were inconsistent with a simple fall. Following the autopsy findings, the local media said the Cyprus police reclassified the case as premeditated murder. Investigation is ongoing. The DMW assured continuous coordination with the Department of Foreign Affairs regarding the final autopsy results. De Castro's remains were repatriated on October 29 via Clark International Airport through the joint efforts of the DMW, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA, and Department of Foreign Affairs. As an active OWA member, De Castro's family was immediately provided with its due benefits, including an accidental death benefit of 200,000 pesos and assistance provided for his child under the Educational Livelihood Assistance Program. The family is also eligible for other OWA programs, including livelihood support, according to OWA Administrator Patricia Yvonne Kaunan. Migrant Worker Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak earlier assured the family that the DMW would expedite all the necessary processes, including the release of benefits. He said the quick turnover reflected DMW's strengthened coordination with partner agencies.
Dateline Malacañang.
Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, announced more than 10,000 former overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, who have passed the licensure examination for teachers, or LET, have successfully reintegrated into the country and returned to the education sector. In a press release, the DMW said that this reintegration was made possible through its Sa Pinas Ikaw ang Ma'am at Sir, o SPIMS program. The program provides guidance and support to former OFWs, helping them reintegrate into the education workforce. The DMW continues to strengthen its partnership with the Department of Education, or DepEd, to facilitate the return of more OFWs to teaching roles. Through SPIMS, returning OFWs have not only resumed their teaching careers but also contributed to strengthening the nation's education system. The program continues to expand, inspiring both educators and students alike. On Monday, the DMW held a ceremony in Mandaluyong City to award SPIMS beneficiaries with certificates of recognition. DMW Assistant Secretary for Reintegration Francis Ron de Guzman and National Capital Region Director Falcone Millar commended the dedication of the new teachers who transitioned from working abroad to educating Filipino students.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon, said the administration of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is starting to hold those involved in the flood control scandal accountable. He issued the statement following the filing of the first batch of cases against former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Elizalde Co. and several former officials of the DPWH over alleged anomalous flood control projects in Oriental Mindoro before the Sandigan Bayan on Tuesday. The DPWH chief added that the government is confident that the cases that will be filed against the accused will be solid. Secretary Dizon also pointed out that the cases related to the flood control scam are rolling faster compared to other graft and corruption cases. Secretary Dizon added that former DPWH officials and contractors will be charged next regarding the ghost and substandard flood control projects in Bulacan. This follows the president's directive to immediately ensure that the people's money is returned. Those involved in ghost and substandard flood control projects are charged and that someone is imprisoned as soon as possible. On Tuesday, the Office of the Ombudsman filed the cases of the Anti-Graft Court against several officials of DPWH Mimaropa and SunWest Corporation Board of Directors. The case involved the construction of a road dike along the Mag-asawang Tubig River worth over 289 million pesos, which was found to be substandard. They are facing charges for alleged violation of Article 217 in relation to Article 1714 of the Revised Penal Code, malversation of public funds through falsification of public documents, and Section 3E of Republic Act 3019, the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI, Wednesday requested the Department of Justice, or DOJ, to issue Immigrant Lookout Bulletin Orders, or ILBO, against 17 individuals in its ongoing investigation on anomalous flood control projects. In a statement, ICI Chairperson Andres Reyes Jr. said the requested ILBOs are in relation to the criminal cases filed by the Office of the Ombudsman before the Sandigan Bayan against former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Elizalde Co., several officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH in Mimaropa, and key officers of the construction company SunWest Corporation. Named in the request were DPWH 4B Mimaropa Director Gerald Pacanan, Assistant Regional Directors Jean Altea and Ruben Santos Jr., Construction Division Chief Dominic Serrano, Project Engineer Felizardo Casuno, Materials Engineer Timohen Sakar, Planning and Design Chief Montrexis Tamayo, Maintenance Division Chief Juliet Calvo, Quality Assurance Chief Dennis Abagon, Accountant Lerma Caico, and Bids and Awards Committee or BAC members Grace Lopez and Frederick Carl Camero. An ILBO was likewise sought against SunWest President Aderma Angeli Alcazar, and Board of Directors members Cesar Buenaventura, Consuelo Aldon, Noel Cao, and Antonio Ngo. An ILBO instructs immigration officers to closely monitor the travel of subject individuals.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Department of Agriculture expects Philippine farm exports to gain a significant competitive edge in the United States after Washington, D.C. decided to exempt more products from the 19% reciprocal tariff. The Assistant Secretary Ernel de Mesa, in a bagong Pilipinas interview, said the expanded exemption would directly benefit Filipino farmers and agri-exporters. De Mesa said reducing market entry cost would make Philippine products more attractive to U.S. buyers. He noted that there are no limits to the volume or value of exports that can benefit from the tariff waiver. In 2024, he said the Philippines exported $12.12 billion worth of goods to the U.S., with a big percentage from coconut-based products that are now part of the newly exempted categories. Based on the U.S. government announcement on November 14, included in the exemption are coconut oil, prepared or preserved coconuts and desiccated coconuts, fruit juices, processed pineapples, bananas other than pulp, dried guavas, mangoes and mangosteen, frozen tuna fillets, rice wafer products, and confectionery products. Before the latest U.S. decision, other Philippine agricultural products that are already exempted from the tariff include coffee, tea, cocoa and spices, oranges, tomatoes, beef, and select fertilizers.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on the DA, the Department of Agriculture or DA is strengthening the annual observance of National Rice Awareness Month or NRAM this November with a continuing theme, Be Rice-Ponsible, aimed at promoting healthier and more responsible rice consumption while supporting local farmers. NRAM is celebrated every November to raise public awareness on the importance of rice, address malnutrition and poverty, and promote national rice self-sufficiency. Philippine Rice Research Institute Supervising Science Research Specialist Carisma Love Gado Gonzalez said this started with the United Nations Declaration of the International Year of Rice in 2024 and was reinforced through Proclamation Number 524. She noted that irresponsible practices including food waste, avoidance of nutritious rice varieties, and preference for imported rice continue to affect the rice sector. A key component of the initiative is the Abacada movement, which encourages consumers to adopt mindful rice practices. The campaign encourages households, schools, agencies, and communities to make every grain count by embracing healthier diets and choosing rice varieties that are nutritious and sustainable produced. Gado Gonzalez said the Philippines' goal of rice self-sufficiency cannot rely on government efforts alone. It requires public cooperation and lifestyle changes, particularly as fast food and heavily processed meals have become more common in recent years. She added that supporting local farmers by purchasing locally produced rice is crucial in increasing farmers' incomes and reducing dependence on imported rice. Now on its 10th year, the Be Rice-Ponsible campaign continues to push for sustainable and health-conscious consumption patterns, reinforcing rice as both a cultural symbol and a vital component of national food security.
Dateline Malacañang.
Finally, for Dateline Malacañang, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is reminding clients in need of travel clearance for minors traveling abroad, or MTA, to apply ahead of their scheduled foreign trips to avoid inconvenience during the Christmas holidays when there is an upsurge in MTA applications. Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao in a statement said the ideal time to secure the travel clearance certificates, or TCC, is 30 days before the intended travel date to avoid processing delays amid the expected surge of applications during the holidays. The provision of TCC for minors traveling abroad is part of the government's anti-trafficking measures to safeguard minors or individuals below 18 years old traveling outside the Philippines who are unaccompanied by either of their biological parents or persons having parental responsibility or legal custody over the child. The issuance of travel clearance for minors is also specified under the Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act and the Philippine Passport Act of 1996. The DSWD also issues certificates of exemption or COE in specific situations wherein children are traveling with an unmarried parent and orphan children who will travel with their legal guardians. Dumlao said the application for TCC and COE has been made online and simplified as part of the ease of doing business and digitalization efforts in line with the directive of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. The system requires a virtual meeting where the parents, their child or children, and the accompanying adult, if applicable, will be interviewed by the SWD social workers to ensure the accuracy of information provided in the online application. The processing of TCC and COE can be applied with the MTA online system.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Razo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza-de Guzman.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.